We're in the brand new Mazda CX-90. This is Mazda's newest vehicle. It's their large three-row crossover to replace the beloved CX-9. But anytime we get a new vehicle, it's always awesome to see what's unique about it, especially when it comes to the exterior lights and interior lighting. That's its unique signature. And you hear that chime? It's because I don't have my seatbelt on when I start the vehicle. So if you're a seatbelter on or after you start the vehicle, you're always going to get that chime in this CX-90. Now, just like everything about this vehicle with the design, it is very subdued when it comes to interior lighting. We have a little bit of ambient lighting. It's kind of, there you guys, you can see that strip underneath there. As we get into the back seat, it might be a little bit more apparent. Having that bar, it's pretty much identical to what we have in the front. The climate control cluster is well illuminated back there with the USBs that you see down there as well. And lastly, for the back seat, there is illumination for the footwells, which is great. Now there's the third row, which there's nothing special going on back there. All right, into the front seat, we have this little puddle lamp. There you go, you can see it right there, and that pushes the light down into the rotary dial area as well as the volume knob area, so that's great to have. Just very minimal lighting throughout the cabin, and it does a good job at night dimming things, whether it's this screen or that screen or the head-up display that you see off in the distance. In the day, that can be very, very bright, and at nighttime here, they do a good job at dimming that down for us. The illumination on the steering wheel is quite nice. Very crisp and clean. That's what I'm noticing with all the illumination here. And not only does the illumination on the ambient lighting have a nice elegant effect to it, but if we look down, it actually shows light down onto the window switches control. And you see my hand light up as well. So I like how it's functional as well as pleasing to the eye. And Mazda's also brought attention over to the memory seats as well as iStop. That is something we'll talk about when we start driving. But it's great to have all those extra controls illuminated as well. And you can see down below, the footwell is illuminated, but we don't have any dash illumination. I think that would have been a nice touch like we have on the doors here to have an additional LED lamp right on the dash. We're gonna turn that defrost off. The fog has lifted. And go ahead and get on the outside of the vehicle where the lighting is going to be quite impressive. So we'll start with the blinkers off, and I have the nighttime lights on right now. Man, how cool are these unique LED daytime running lights that run right into the grille from the headlamp, and then you also have this additional accent on the outside that doubles as your daytime running light. This has a very unique front end to it. It's very luxurious. It has a great presence overall of the CX-90 from just about every angle, but I'm going to turn on the blinker so you get an idea of the turn indicator. We got the heartbeat sensors not only on the mirrors here, we have it in this guy. Check that out. So that daytime running light that feeds into the grille also is your turn indicator, but the headlight capsule stays the same. So that gives you an idea. If you're looking at it from the side, you get a good heartbeat sensor effect going on from the front, the side mirror. All right, checking out the rear light here, heartbeat signal as well, with this small, very small but intricate turn signal with two parallel lines and kind of like a bowl holding it, and then almost a light bar. So let's go ahead and turn off the turn indicator to give us a better overall idea of the back end here. It's a very bright license plate holder. You have two LEDs illuminating the license plate, but very unmistakable rear end, I would say, for this Mazda CX-90. That is until the CX-70 comes out, which is supposed to be very similar to this, but just shrunken down and removing that third row and whatnot. But from the back, it looks very unique. I'll just say that. So many cars nowadays have the full light bar going all the way across. Mazda has given us like a 3/4 light bar, and I'm okay with that. Now, when you open the door, this turns into a very bright experience. We have lights over the third row. We have lights on each side underneath the handles, and you have one right here on this side as well. But yeah, the cabin lights up so brightly. I'm actually quite surprised. It'd be very easy for my kids to get into the car in the very early morning or nighttime, but typically we get in the car in the early mornings. We also have Android Auto wirelessly in here. Now this doesn't work as a touchscreen unless you're in the Android Auto option, then you can use the touchscreen as it's intended to be. So it's great to have that feature here where you need it the most, in my opinion. You can still use a rotary dial on this screen as well, but I don't know why you would most of the time. All right, let's drive in some tight areas here with the CX-90. It's gonna be a little bit different than my full-on review, which is gonna be during the day with my family and whatnot, but just pulling into a parking spot here, the turning radius in this is extremely impressive. And maybe it's because it's a rear-wheel drive biased vehicle, that it just allows more space to free up for the turning apparatus up front. And it does take some getting used to with the shifter here, because park is all the way up to the left, reverse is actually to the right, and then drive is all the way down from reverse. So I've never been in a car where it had that sort of shift gate pattern. I guess that's maybe the right name for it. But the 360 camera in here works great, very high resolution. It's definitely a welcome thing to have in this very large SUV or crossover, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is bordering, I would probably put this in the terms of an SUV, and the reason is it has a longitudinal engine. So that means the inline 6 cylinders are facing this way instead of most competitors to this car are front wheel drive biased, where the engine is sitting this way in the engine bay. So what does that do to this vehicle? It makes it handle like the best 3-row crossover maybe I've ever driven. And it feels more natural than the Acura MDX Type S. I'm not gonna say it feels faster, or it's gonna be faster on the track. It just feels more natural, and it's just smile inducing to push this vehicle. Which we're gonna, oh, we got a little green light there anyways. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The engine sound is not amazing, but Mazda does seemingly pump that engine noise into the cabin. It reminds me a lot of their 4-cylinder 2.5-liter SkyActiv G turbo engine, but it has like a very deep snarl to this engine. It doesn't rev high, just like the 2.5-liter SkyActiv G engine. This redline's just over 6,000 RPM. We also have paddle shifters in here with the 8-speed auto. And this is fun because I'm not gonna be doing this so much with the family review with the kids in here. But pedal down right now, but it overrid my 4th gear that I had, which is interesting. So even though you have it in manual, it still has a mind of its own. But here we go, pedal down in 3rd gear. And it does kind of have this strange 2-stage throttle response. You think you have the pedal floored, kind of like the IS 500 with the V8, but there's also another press of the pedal that is technically full throttle at that point. So, and no one's behind me. I'm going 55. I'm gonna get hard onto the brakes here. It stops insanely well. Let's floor it. And I noticed this, there's 60. I noticed this when I did my 0 to 60s in this vehicle. When you have pedal down from a launch going through 1st through 3rd gear, you get this weird reverberation coming through the back of the cabin. Not sure what's going on there, but it's one of the more rougher sides of this vehicle. But in normal daily driving, you never hear that interesting reverberation going on with the pedal down. All right, but just driving out here at 50 miles an hour, this is luxury smooth, luxury quiet, unbelievable for a Mazda, to be honest. Like, I really love the CX-9, its predecessor. It was just a little small, but it drove great and it had character to it. This has character on a whole new level, and that's something that's extremely rare with 3-row crossovers, to have any sort of character. The engine is unique, and there's that reverberation, but it still sounds good. handling is unlike any other 3-row crossover for the better. And then what about the steering? The steering is amazing in here. It has just the right amount of heft that borders on sport as well as a blending luxury, and that's just everything about this vehicle. It perfectly balances. I'm going to turn the front defrost on. It perfectly balances sport and luxury. It's a firm ride. Oh, that's too much fan noise. It's a firm ride, but also a soft ride at the same time. It handles the bumps really, really well. The transmission is sporty. It definitely tailors more on the sporty end compared to the luxury end, so you feel the shifts. And most of the time, that's a good thing. There are some times with this brand new 8-speed automatic that you have some weird things going on the transmission, you know, maybe a strange upshift that's a bit clunky, but that's really rare. And I think Mazda would be able to iron that stuff out. You know, this is the first early production, so maybe even this year they could iron out some of those transmission funniness going on, but definitely in the years to come, I would expect them. So in terms of refinement, it's not Lexus quality, I'll say that. In terms of materials in here, absolutely Lexus quality, if not better. And in terms of build quality, it's absolutely up there with Lexus's best as well. I would say it's better build quality than the RX 500H that I just drove. Like, it is unbelievably well put together. It is unbelievably well adorned in this Premium Plus Turbo S trim. There are 8 different trims just for the Inline 6. It's quite overwhelming. But that allows Mazda to tackle the luxury market, which this thing does really well at a good price point, $60,000. The luxury models, and that if you want to do traditional luxury, they'll be costing a lot more than $60,000. But it scales all the way down to $40,000 for the CX-90 as well. And Mazda is able to hit the mass market as well as the luxury market with one vehicle because the powertrains are so good. And we'll talk more about maybe the plug-in hybrid later, but I haven't driven it, so there's only so much I can say. Even the blinker stock has a great refined feel to it. I'm going to throw this in the turn. And we do have adaptive headlights in here. And it's firm through the corners, but it is still soaking up the bumps great. Very impressive. And you just get pushed out of the corner instead of dragged along like a front-wheel drive vehicle. Even though it's all-wheel drive, it never feels like an all-wheel drive vehicle. Always feels like a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And you could say it's similar in a lot of ways to how Genesis, right? I'm comparing this to a luxury Genesis, and it absolutely competes, absolutely, in terms of materials and in terms of driving mechanics and just overall luxury. This thing, when it's idling, this Inline 6, it's hardly noticeable that it's on. And that leads me to another thing. What's unique about this vehicle is that it is a 48-volt mild hybrid. We don't see that many outside of, let's say, the Germans. What that does is that when you're decelerating, sometimes, it's not doing it right now for whatever reason, but especially during the day, when you're decelerating, the engine turns off and you'll get a little indicator that says I-stop. And the I-stop kills the engine and allows for a better fuel economy. I-stop is a mind of its own, and it takes away from the luxurious nature of this vehicle. But yeah, just, you know, normal acceleration here. First gear has a pretty abrupt shift out of it. Most of the time it's acceptable on a sporty end, but sometimes you want it to be just a little bit more dull to have a more luxurious experience. But it's always got sport on its mind, this transmission. Anyways, back to I-stop. It has a mind of its own. So you'll just be coming to a stop, it'll turn off the engine. Before you get to the stop, sometimes it'll turn back on the engine, and then you come to the full stop, it'll turn off the engine again, and then fire it back on. It sucks away from the luxury of this car, the I-stop feature. Luckily, you can turn it off with the press of and hold of this I-stop button over here. And this vehicle, once I-stop's off, it's completely predictable, and you don't get interrupted with the engine turning on and off all the time. I'll talk more about the I-stop and how it affects driving in my daily review if I haven't ranted about it enough. But that's the one thing about this vehicle that really can can kill the experience, because it's, yeah, anyways, I'm done ranting. All right, the brights are extremely bright on here. That was impressive. I'm gonna pump them down right now. It does have automatic high beams, as well as, like I said, adaptive front lighting systems when you turn the steering wheel. And it's not new to the CX-90, but a lot of the higher end trim Mazdas will have the headlights that are linked to the steering wheel turning. And the switchgear is just amazing down here in the center. I have all the buttons to me, heated and ventilated seats. The heated steering wheel, I guess, is the other thing other than iStop that's this big, like, swing and a miss. This heated steering wheel never gets warm. Like, I'll leave it on for 5 to 10 minutes. I'll be like, is it even on? So it's pretty much worthless. Some people say Mazdas do, you know, the 10 and 2 positions only. I would say it's not even that. I don't get any heated steering wheel action in this vehicle, which is a big fail in my opinion, but the heated and ventilated seats work amazing, if that's any consolation for you guys. And we have different drive modes in here. I did 0 to 60s. It was about 6.6 seconds regardless of the drive mode. So I have it in sport. It changes the gauge cluster a little bit and the sensitivity of the gas pedal, as well as the shift logic. Yeah, it's to me, like, it's perfectly fine in normal mode. You get full acceleration. The pedal's just not quite as sensitive. I think it's time to conclude this Mazda CX-90 for this short drive at nighttime. Well, the lights are bright on the outside. I wish they gave us a little bit more interior ambient lighting in here, even though the buttons and the screen, everything in here is illuminated great, the things that are most important, but it could take that next step for a luxury vehicle to have some additional ambient lighting, but really that's not a big deal. On the outside, this vehicle is unmistakable. The unique rear lights, the unique front lights, especially those daytime running lights, and the driving mechanics make this drive more like a BMW compared to, let's say, a Lexus. This thing has sport on the mind all the time. If you want it, it's green light. Just gently into the pedal here. Blow that Honda Accord away, and it's just so natural in curves. I don't think I've ever had to correct the steering once. It's just so predictable. And in my main review, I'm gonna say it has the spirit, well, I'll just say it here, it has the spirit of an MX-5, which has this natural extension of yourself as a vehicle. It feels amazing driving this CX-90, and I'm just, like, so happy that Mazda's done it. They've been able to compete in the luxury space for not luxury prices, and not only that, they're doing it their own way with a rear-wheel drive bias platform, an inline 6, a 3.3 liter inline 6. Lexus doesn't have any inline 6s like they used to when they first came out in the early 90s. And yeah, all the Lexus counterparts are going to have 4-cylinder turbos compared to this 6-cylinder turbo. So I can't say enough good things about this vehicle as long as you have iStop off. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this nighttime review of Mazda's new incredible CX-90, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe for more. And definitely stay tuned for my daytime driving review with the family to see how this copes with a large family of 6. And yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you guys for watching. I can't wait to drive this vehicle with a plug-in hybrid as well, hopefully in the near future, because that should change this vehicle and maybe for the better in some ways. But thank you guys for watching. Gotta cut it off there. Have a great day and peace. And here's an idea of how bright these lights are in a neighborhood. Like, I can see the tops of the palm trees about 100 yards off. Like, it is ridiculously bright, but I'm gonna turn them off because there's a car in front of me.